What if the very things women have been told are healthy, eating less, doing more cardio, chasing smaller bodies, are actually wrecking their hormones, metabolism, and relationship with food? In today's episode, I'm joined by Coryn Brown and Crysanne, the mother-daughter duo behind Her Healthy Body podcast, and we're talking about healing from diet culture, why so many women are underfueled and overstressed without even realizing it, and why strength training and protein are so foundational for real healing. If you've ever felt like you're doing all the right things, but still feel exhausted, inflamed, frustrated, or stuck, this episode is for you. Welcome to Faith Over Pharma, the podcast for women who want a different way to heal. I'm Susan Gladstein, holistic health practitioner and functional nutrition specialist, and here we explore faith-led, holistic approaches to hormones, energy, and symptoms that just keep getting brushed off. If that's you, you're in the right place. All right, let's be honest. How many times have you told yourself one day? When life slows down, when the kids don't need you as much, or when you have more time. Maybe you've even convinced yourself that you need a good reason before you're allowed to choose something for yourself. What if that quiet your soul is craving is never going to appear on its own? What if you actually have to choose it before it happens? The Rooted Reset Retreat in Costa Rica is for the woman who knows she needs space to breathe, heal, hear from God, and remember who she is underneath all the noise. If you're craving quiet, clarity, and time that's just for you, this retreat was created for you. You can learn more at rootedresetretreat.com. Today's conversation is such an important one because I think so many women have spent years being told that eating less, doing more cardio, and chasing smaller bodies is the answer, only to end up exhausted, frustrated, and feeling more disconnected from their health than ever. I'm joined today, and I'm very excited about this, with a mother-daughter duo, health coaching duo, and the voices behind the Her Healthy Body podcast. With more than 20 years of combined experience helping women in both person and online, they focus on strength training, protein-focused nutrition, and helping women rebuild their health after years of diet culture and extremes, all while keeping God at the center of the journey. So I'm really excited about this conversation because I know that there's so many women who are listening that are kind of stuck in that under-eating, overdoing, wondering why their bodies are no longer responding to the way that they used to. And I would love to hear from you guys because I know that you keep God at the center of all of your work. And I would really just love to hear, to start it out, how has faith really shaped the way that you approach healing, body image, and then really just helping women care for themselves in a healthier way? So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much, Susan. I would say the way it started for us was we didn't have him at the center of our journey at all. In fact, health and fitness was our God. And we were obsessed with trying to be the smallest version of us. And I mean, I remember being in high school, maybe even middle school, and just comparing myself to children at a really young age. I was always taller than everyone, so I always immediately thought I was bigger. And I had a horrible insecurity about that. And when I was in sports, just growing up trying to figure out yourself, I remember I had not made two big teams, and that was the biggest thing in high school because you're making your identity your sport almost. And my mom, she knew that I was more capable and I was going down a really bad path because I was struggling so bad, and that's when she introduced me to the gym. And that's how our relationship actually became so strong, and I got really close with her because every day after school, instead of me going to practice like I usually did, I went to the gym with her. and I fell in love with it. And it started off in a really healthy place. But I think you and I fed off of each other so much that then it turned into how can we be the smallest version of us, and how can we be the strictest with our diet, and how can we just overall, it was all about looks, and nothing was sacred in this anymore.
We let the world dictate what we should look like. It became our God in an unhealthy way. It became all about us. And, I just got off the phone with my spiritual director, and he said, the things that we idolize, we eventually despise. So that was like, I was like, yeah, that's so good. I'm using that. And I just got to use it 10 minutes later. But it's so true. It started off so healthy. I remember being 12 years old, and I don't know what 12-year-old wants to be so strong that I took a deck of cards and I would sit on the ground and I'd flip over a card and it'd be like, okay, I'm going to do that many push-ups and I'm going to do that many sit-ups. It started off so healthy. I just wanted to be strong. I remember that as a child. But the more and more I got into the fitness world, the more I grew up, the more, like she did, comparing myself to other people, and then it became self-absorbed. And yeah, really, when your looks, and you call it health and fitness, become that idol and turn into the world's way, it becomes really dark really fast. And I can tell you this, I have so many health problems because of that journey, because of turning it into a punishment, because of, the starving myself, eat little, be little, working out constantly, running all the time. I have serious health problems because of it. And it wasn't until just going through that, what worked before didn't work now, all those things, going deeper and deeper into this, that it was like, okay, I surrender. And that was the moment of realizing I wasn't putting God first in my life. And he let me suffer for that. And that was good. It was, we learn a lot from our sufferings, right? Thank God I learned from my sufferings. And as soon as I put God at the center and idolize him, everything just started to fall into place for both of us. We both kind of, since we're so close, I mean, we do everything together. And what happens in my journey, she sees, and what happens in her journey, I see. And it was so beautiful. I did go through a very hard time in the last 3 years that even brought us even closer. But through that suffering, God just showed us, like, I gave you the most beautiful bodies. I gave you all this, and like, I was just punishing it. I wasn't like looking at it as a gift. And as soon as I turned it around and started looking at it as a gift, it started to become more nurturing. It started to just be peaceful. The chaos went away. And I like the health issues that I had started to clear up. And I'm like, because I'm not doing anything. Like, what is this? I'm resting and I'm starting to feel better. I have clarity. I have energy. And we just started to all notice it together. And we're like, we've been undernourished. We have been over exercising.
We've been doing this wrong for a really long time and thinking it was right.
So it was, yeah, in the beauty part of it is God has just been opening. The more we search him, the more he's been opening our eyes. And we just like, we got to tell people, because we've coached people for the past 20 years. And sorry to all the people in my first 10 years of coaching, because we were both doing it. We're putting them through what we were going through. And a big apology, because if I could just get them back, and I feel like now we're just on that mission. I want to get them back, and I just want to, like, let's do this the right, the sane, the healthy way. That's our journey.
I love it. And how precious for the two of you to like have bonded over something as wonderful as being healthy. And yeah, I think we've all kind of gone through those struggles at some point in our lives. If you're a woman, you have had issues with diet and exercise. Some of us have stayed in there longer than others. I know for me, I really, I was always very, very active. But then once I started like thinking like, oh, I'm going to coach other women into this, the pressure of that was a lot. And I hadn't really dealt with my own emotional eating. And I just thought, well, to get the aesthetic that I wanted, I needed to cut back calories. And I was just under fueling. And I look back at pictures of myself when I thought that I didn't look great. While I've always been thin, I was not healthy. And I can look at that poor young girl with just like love now that I didn't feel adequate in so many ways. And I was trying to search for fulfillment in health and fitness, in being a certain size and being, then I got into CrossFit and lifting weights. And I was like, all about lifting the heaviest that I could and beating my husband at the gym. And that was a fun competition. But I had brain fog and joint pain, and I was taking all these supplements that were causing like gastro issues. And, feeling like you're going to poop your pants at the squat rack is not the
I'm sorry.
ideal situation, but that's where I was because I was trying and throwing all these things at the wall because there was this, fitness thing that I was trying to do. And it really truly wasn't until I found the Lord and how he sees me and really viewing my body as like I'm going to take care of it and nourish it and love it because that is, being obedient to him and what he's given me in this gift. But it took me having a health crisis to sort of realize that. But I know that there's a woman that's been spending probably years dieting. Maybe she thinks she's doing things that are quote unquote healthy. What are some signs that her body may be telling her like she's either underfueled or just not doing the healthiest of things? What are some signs that you guys typically see in your clients?
It's funny that you asked that question because it showed up so differently for the both of us. For me, it was very mental. I really struggled with like when I was not feeding my body correctly, whenever I was working out a ton, I became obsessed with food. My relationship with food was god awful. I was always thinking when my next meal was. I was always thinking like when I'm at a social event, I'm thinking more about the food than spending time with my friends. It became just this weird obsession that I never had before prior to me dieting. And I just thought this is what you have to do in order to be thin. Like this is what you have to go through. So I really struggled with it mentally. And then I also dealt with a lot of yo-yo dieting. So I would gain the same 15 to 30 pounds and lose the same 15 to 30 pounds. And it would be me being so strict with myself to the point where you just can't do it anymore. Your body is just sending you that signal of like, hello, we're hungry, feed us. And you can't shut that noise off. And then it would turn into a binge, and then it would turn into guilt. Then I wouldn't eat anything, and then I would try to eat really clean. And the cycle would just happen over and over again for me.
And for me, it was more of a physical appearance. So I had anorexia when I was in high school. So I have the ability to just like bear down. I'm one of these people like you tell me what to do to lose weight, I'm doing it 100%, 110%. And unfortunately, we I became a trainer, and because I wanted to go through the certification and I wanted to learn everything so I can perfect this. And in that, I learned how to treat my body like an athlete. They really don't give you any hormone information, you know what I mean? Like how this is going to affect your hormones, like they never gave me anything to look for other than treating my body, calories in, calories out, how to move that you don't hurt yourself, but never the other aspects of it of true health and the signs to look for. So I remember thinking to myself, like I would work out every single day. I would eat like maybe 700-800 calories a day. I got myself there. I mean, I just kept having to cut and cut and cut my calories because I was just stalling all the time. And what do you do when you stall? when you're as strict and ridiculous as I was, I just kept cutting back. But I remember that's just where the message of the fitness industry is so wrong for people. They treat everybody as an athlete, and they treat as everybody as calories in, calories out. So my training just enforced that. And that's where it showed up for me, where I eventually could not sleep. I was running on 2 to 3 hours a night, and I honestly believed, because I honestly believed I just didn't need sleep, because I was running on so much cortisol that I had energy. I didn't feel that tiredness. My body was just like super hyped up on cortisol. But then I had noticed things like my hair was starting to fall out. I could not gain muscle to save my life. Like I did 1,000 squats a day, and I had the flattest butt in the world. Like, I'm like, something's not adding up. Like, if you add the math, I'm doing everything. But they never said the importance of hormones, nourishment, sleep, water. Like, it just, well, yeah, I mean, take that one out. Water, yeah, there was, but I didn't realize the impact of these things compared to what I was taught in my certification. So it just showed up very physically for me.
I can relate to that as well. I mean, and my, you think about like cortisol, and for a lot of my clients, when I was more in like the health and fitness space years ago, a lot of people would tell me, well, I'm just not hungry. Like they were skipping breakfast and quote unquote fasting, and they just, well, I'm not hungry. And then they would tell me, by 3 o'clock, they're exhausted, or it's when you stop, when you slow down. And I would have to explain that that's your body in the fight or flight mode. If you're just spiking all your cortisol and being stressed all the time, your body's going to prioritize survival over anything. And so when you actually slow down, sit down, get in your car, you're driving home for the day, all of a sudden you realize you're starving. And then if you don't plan for it, you just ransack the cupboard and maybe you eat. I used to eat dry, like raw pasta, which is disgusting. So there was something about the crunch of it. There's probably something psychological about that, but that would be my thing. My go-to is kind of like a chip, I guess. I don't know. But it was such a weird thing for me to sort of peel back the layers and realize a lot of the stuff that I was trying to chase or find, and I kind of mentioned this before, but find like fulfillment in and comfort in was food. So I was very much an emotional eater, but realizing that I was an emotional eater was like just more fuel to the fire. It just made things worse till I really kind of sat with it and tried to figure out, well, what is it that I'm trying to, am I feeling lonely and need a hug or call a friend, or like, what is it that I'm really trying to deal with? And for me, it was really seeing food not as the enemy, because I had sort of demonized it. The diet culture does a fantastic job for women of demonizing food. We think we can just outwill, as we mentioned, ourselves into cutting calories over and over and over again, not realizing that like we need fuel to do what we're called to do. And you can't be an awesome mom and wife and sister and all the things, employee, if you're just running on fumes all the time. So I was yelling at my kids more than I would like to admit. And I just got tired of feeling sick and tired, you know? And so that was really kind of the sort of rock bottom, if you will, for me. That's like, I've got to change this. And when I started looking at food from a space of gratitude, like God has really put incredible nutrition on this planet to fuel us, make us feel good. When I started having an attitude of gratitude at mealtime, slowing down, really savoring each bite, taking time to chew it, not eating and walking and doing all the other things, everything tasted better. So when I go to Costa Rica, I host retreats there, and they make this incredible, locally sourced organic food in Costa Rica. The fruit is amazing. It tastes, a million times better than anything you get here in the States. But that's always my thing. They always laugh at me because I'm sitting there and I'm like really with every bit of my senses, like enjoying the meal. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, this is what you need to do to like really nourish your body on all levels. But what are some of the biggest mistakes that you guys see that women make when they're just trying to get healthy, quote unquote, get healthy after years of following kind of this diet culture?
You always hear of the word like clean eating, always hear that, and people are going to a smoothie place and they're getting the kale and the spinach smoothie and thinking like I need to juice, I need to be on a juice cleanse. Like they're just trying to eat so clean that they end up not realizing that they're not getting enough nutrients. Because you can eat a lot of healthy foods and that be low calorie. But some women are so low calorie and they're not realizing it that they are stressing their bodies out doing that. And then you add on top of it, well, if I want to lose body fat, they think I need to do a lot of cardio. It's always been women belong on the cardio machines, men belong lifting the weights. And I know that has changed over time. I'm really starting to see it more with my age. I'm 30 and younger. Women are finally starting to really embrace the weights, which I think is awesome. But it's still in the back of their head. But I have this layer of fat over me that I need to get rid of to then see my muscles, to then look like I have this toned body. And we go after the wrong things. We're focusing more on the scale than we are anything else whenever we are measuring progress. And we don't realize that the scale only tells so much. We can be losing just as amount of water and muscle as body fat. So when we think that we lose 10 pounds in a week and we're so happy, we shouldn't be, because a lot of that is going to be more muscle and water than it is actual body fat.
Yeah, the whole stress undernourished thing, I think women um we bought into, I think, a lot of veganism. A lot of every time someone says, I eat healthy, I eat my fruits and vegetables, I'm always like, yeah, okay, that, I understand that's healthier than Doritos. I get it, those are better choices, yes. But are we fueling our bodies seriously? So because of my abuse to my body and underfueling for so long, I have a lot of gut issues. And unfortunately, I cannot eat fruits and vegetables right now. When I do, I have a very bad reaction to fiber. So I have gone in the last 5 years really with very, very minimal amount of fruits and vegetables. I could do a little bit of ferments here and there, but for the most part, I eat meat. And meat, people don't understand how nutritious meat actually is. We've been taught like red meat's going to give you a heart attack. It's always like that very overweight person with a thing of cigarettes and bad food and then a thing of meat. And it's always demonized. And I have thrived off of red meat. And I was that person. I had red meat this week. I can't do it again. I had it one time. Like I only, now I'm like, I had it for breakfast, I had it for lunch, and I'm gonna have it for dinner. And I am not gaining weight. I'm not putting on a whole bunch of fat. And I have to say that like I get my blood work done, my energy, my brain fog, I am nourished.
And you talking about like you enjoying your meal so
Oh,
much,
you
like
should see
you
me.
should see her with me. It's hilarious because she's just so thankful for it.
I went to Punta Cana. Okay, so I had to go on to the carnivore diet. That's kind of how I live. I'm not really that strict with it, but it's basically how I eat. So when I first discovered it, and it didn't hurt my stomach, I was the happiest person in the world. And it was a week later, we had an all-inclusive vacation to Punta Cana. And I'm like, I'm not stopping this. I don't care when I go to Punta Cana, I'm going to find meat. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it was an all-inclusive place. And I remember, you should have seen me. I had my husband going up and getting burgers for me, my son going up and getting, because I was so embarrassed of the amount of food that I was eating because I was so undernourished for so long. And I'm like, look, my stomach's not bloated and I can eat this. I never enjoyed food. And to this day, like you said, when you just sit down, look at that nutritious food, not be afraid of it. I think that's, we're afraid to enjoy food. Like that's
We
a
think like
punishment.
it has to taste like the like healthy food. It has to be very plain.
Like cardboard.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, like that's the diet that, so she did a bodybuilding competition when she was 17. Like she had said in her story, there was a lot of sports thing that happened that I could see this girl just going down this like bad hole of like her brother's excelling in sports and everything she does, she seems to be like failing at it, but I could see that it wasn't her fault. I just saw the way that it was, guess, politics, with sports. And that happens in high school, that's parents get their kids on the team and, things can get skewed. And I saw that happening with her. And she was just kind of going into this little, like, you know, getting a little bit like, backing off of everything. And I'm like, this is not my child. I know my child. She shines. Like that's just how she always is. But I saw her going backwards. And I was like, that's when, I knew she loved working out. And that's when we did a show or she did a show and she had a coach and I was helping her through it. But her diet was awful. I mean, just awful. And that's how we thought we had to eat for years because it worked when she was 17. I could tell you the second show, it didn't work as well again. Yeah, so your body gets used to that right away. But oh, the bland foods that we would force ourselves to eat. Like, no wonder when I sat down with a ribeye, I was in heaven.
Well, and I think in a lot of ways the diet culture is almost like, I don't know, I don't know that they literally pass out badges of honor that you like survive through the worst food, like, but we think that that's what we have to do in order to get the result that we want. And I personally think that's a little bit by design. But if a woman has been sort of conditioned to fear food or eating more, what do you guys do, or what do you recommend to help her begin to rebuild trust in her body?
I can totally relate with how scary it can be to eat more. Both of us can. It's very hard mentally. Your body actually loves it, and sometimes it loves it so much that it's going to hold on to weight for a little bit because it just doesn't trust you yet. It's been undernourished for a really long time. So when we start to eat a little bit more, something that I will say is expect a little bit of weight gain. And I would have liked to hear that, of just knowing that like that's the reality of it whenever you're just undernourishing for a very long time, but it's not going to stay. Your body is going to end up trusting you. And the way that we help our clients, our listeners on the podcast, to just eat a little bit more is just start with protein, because that's something that's going to keep you nourished. It's something that isn't going to convert into energy, so it's not going to be stored as fat. So we focus on, with them eating more, to just add a little bit of more protein into their diet, to help them keep that food noise down and to not see so much weight gain.
And we also put the emphasis on strength and muscle because we want to, instead of treating this like our whole lives, we're just, like you said, taught to restrict, restrict, restrict. And that's what we think we should do. And, we're already feeling like we have too much fat on our bodies. So you're not going to tell me that I can eat more when I already have fat to lose. How am I going to eat more? So we just try to get them in a mindset of you may have some fat on your body you want to lose, but you're under muscled. And we're going to switch this. Instead of worrying about fat loss, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to worry about strength. We're going to worry about muscle because we, want to give them the education. And I love this. I just heard this the other day. I don't know if you know Dr. Vonda Wright. She's awesome. I have such respect for her. And she said, her quote was awesome, that the muscle is the Spanx of the body. Yeah, I mean, you have muscle, you have beautiful shape. And so we try to get our clients not to think about fat loss, but to think about strength, nourishing their body to get that strength. And the fat loss is the side effect later on down the line without like the pain of it. Because once you have that muscle on your body and you're concentrating on strength, and like Coryn said, it takes a little while. It's not going to be, this is like why this is not the sexy way of going about it, because I can give you both of us can make you lose weight. But where is that going to get you if you're at 12,000 calories and you're still not
1200.
Oh, 1,200 calories. Wow, 12,000 calories. That would be something. That's a few extra ribeyes, isn't it? 1,200 calories, and you're still got 30 pounds to lose. Where are we going to take you? So, we just try to make it make sense to them so they're chasing the right thing.
Well, and I think that's such an important distinction because I can't tell you how many women I worked with who had their goal being about what the scale said. And then once they hit it, they really didn't know what to do with themselves. Like, it's kind of like we have that mindset, I'll be happy when, the scale says this, or I'll be happy when I fit in this outfit. And then when you get there, you have nowhere to go from there. So I see the same women lose and regain the same weight because it was always focused on what the scale said. And I will tell you personally, when I was at probably my most fit, most muscular, I was also the heaviest I've ever been in my whole life. And I felt great. So the scale, as you mentioned, is not always the greatest indicator of all of that because I was sleeping better. I had energy. I, had a big old booty that my husband liked. It was like it was a whole different thing, but it definitely is like refocusing what your attention's on. So if a woman is listening right now and she feels like overwhelmed about where to start, what is a simple first step that you would recommend? I know you mentioned the protein, and maybe you can elaborate on how, if somebody wants to work with you to get focused on that, how they might be able to do that.
The number one thing they should be doing, I would say, I'm going to go to sleep. I think that's an indicator of so much, and it's going to help with everything. Now, here's the thing though, with sleep, it's kind of like a catch-22 because we got women who got babies. Like, what are you going to do? I understand that. And I want to shoot people that say just sleep when I would wake up at 2 in the morning and be like, I can't sleep. You know what I mean? But if my focus was on sleep, then I'm going to do everything in my day that's going to line up with that. And that means I'm going to eat enough nutrition. That means I'm going to drink enough water because dehydration can affect sleep. That means I'm going to get enough protein in. That means I'm going to put muscle on my body because muscle, I think people, if they understood the importance of muscle and how it affects all the hormones in your body, including your brain, would be like that. This would be the new focus. Unfortunately, with the GLP-1s, I feel like this is going to be a crisis, a very much a crisis in our near future, because we're going to be so under muscled and it's going to cause a cascade of health issues. So if we're prioritizing sleep, I guess because I just think it is the most important thing. And if you don't get it, everything in your day is going to be affected by it. Even if you can't, even if it's not perfect, I just think we need to make that a priority. That made the biggest change for me in everything that I did that day. I definitely was going to eat enough. I definitely was going to, be active because of my cortisol situation, you can also overdo the exercising that can disrupt your sleep. So I had to lift weights and walk to get my good sleep. So do you see how I'm just saying sleep affects everything that I did in a day. And I think that's just a great focus. One of the great focuses. There's so many, but I would start there personally.
For sure. I love that.
I would
Uh,
say.
what would you say?
I would totally second that. I didn't know
Yeah.
if you were looking for me to say something. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I love that because it is so true. And I think that especially as women, because we're always giving to everybody else that like sleep almost feels like a bit of a luxury instead of a necessity. And I think for me, sort of understanding that, like setting up my room, we don't have a TV in our room, and I know a lot of people do, but that's like one thing that can really mess up your sleep, making sure it's really dark. We invested money in a really great mattress because we had a really junky one because, oh, well, we've had this, why invest? But it was so important to us to really dial in sleep that we were doing all like
Mhm.
blackout curtains, all the things to really make sure that that was a priority. And I know for me, after working in the office environment for so long, just under the fluorescent lights, for me, getting outside and getting morning sun really helped reset. Even now, I notice that if I don't go out, or if I do go out, I get much better sleep if I go out first thing in the morning, like ride my bike with the kids or go to the park or whatever. So I really love that recommendation. Now, if somebody is listening and they're like, I need their help, how does somebody get in touch with you?
You can go to our podcast. You can find our podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts. It's Her Healthy Body. You can go to our website. It's herhealthybody.co. And we have a Facebook community too. And it's the same, Her Healthy Body.
I love that. And I'll make sure that that's all in the show notes. But before we jump off, I'm super grateful for your wisdom and just the message that you guys have. Like, I think it's so special as a mom to, a almost 20-year-old and a 5-year-old girls anyway. I think it's so beautiful to have that be such a focus of your, when my daughter was young, I was not healthy and I was, as I mentioned, yelling all the time. So when I did find my health and my now 5-year-old, like that's so that I feel like that's such a gift. And I love that you guys do this together. But before we jump off, is there anything else that you want to add or say to the woman who's listening and really just struggling?
Hmm. I would say don't make this all about your looks or it's going to totally backfire. That was the biggest mistake that I made. And now that I am a mom, I have a 2-year-old daughter. I just want to model healthy habits for her and never want to beat myself up. And God forbid I said something bad about me and then she looked at herself and thought the same of her. So I would just say make this about getting stronger instead of your looks.
Do you want me to go off?
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard
I
when
want to
there's a
hear.
duo
No,
because I don't
I
know
love
what
it.
they're
I want to hear you too.
I would say that fitness does not have to be hard. Health and fitness can look like peace, and it's the smallest things you do that can have the biggest impact. And that's just what we base most of our teaching on is these really small habits that are so easy to do that people do not understand is so huge. Just like you said with the sunlight, you don't understand when you get the right, when you get the sunlight in your eyes at the right times of the day, that sets you up for, your melatonin at night and you're sleeping through the night. It's little things people just don't understand are so easy that this journey does not have to be hard. It can be peaceful and easy. You just have to know what's going to make the biggest impact and what you can fit in your life.
I love that. I saw a friend yesterday and she was like, "Oh my gosh." So I'm here I am a year postpartum and I've been a little bit frustrated and that I'm not back to lifting weights. I do ride my bike and we walk and we're very active throughout the day, but I've been frustrated a little bit about not being able to get back to lifting and working out the way I have been. But I would say that like my body's inflammation, the way that it's responded has been so much better because I'm not obsessing about all the things. I am staying active, like, realistically being, getting movement through the day is much better than a 30-minute workout. But I also am getting really good sleep and I'm not having all of that stress and cortisol that I was experiencing before by getting up early to work out. So it's kind of one of those things where, and to your point about the meat, I think it's such an individualized thing that there's so many fads out there and, recommendations that you can get. There's so much noise that you think you're doing the right thing, but it may not be the right thing for you. And so that's why I think it's so important for people to work with people like you guys to really dial in what's going to work best for them as an individual, because I found that whenever I started like really tuning in and listening to my body, it made all the difference. Like, I love broccoli, it doesn't love me, that sort of thing. So it's like you can be doing the right thing. And then I did a gut health test and found out like it said, yeah, with your gut microbiome, you should really not eat tomatoes. And I'm like, I literally been eating them every single day. Like, and when I cut it out, I couldn't believe how much inflammation went away, like, so I am so grateful to the both of you for all that you're doing in this space and help sharing the way that we should look at our bodies and respect them, and how God's really given us a gift and we should take care of it. So thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for listening to Faith Over Pharma. If this helped cut through the noise, share it with a friend who always asks, do you think this actually works? And if you're ready to go deeper through immersive retreats, phototherapy, or the Rooted Reset, you'll find your next steps at susangladstein.com.
Thanks for listening.